And tonight I'm going to, it's a couple different things. One of them is that I've created a bunch of borders for me, and I'll go ahead and share that information with you all. And you'll have a place where you can download it and get to have these same borders that I'm showing right now. Same type, and there's a whole bunch of them. The second thing is that I'll show you how to modify those so you can do it yourself if you need different things, and a lot of you will. Did everything with US borders, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Okay, way back in tutorial number 6, I talked about figuring out your printer and coming up with a way to print. So that's basically what this is, although it's a little bit better, because what I have is that I've drawn dimensions of how big the page is in real life. And this particular page is scaled 1:1, and you go to print preview, make it 1:1, and you put the tick marks that I had there right on the edge of the paper. The thing's guaranteed to print, at least on my printer. And that was because of what I did back in tutorial number 6. Okay, what I have also done with this, we'll take it off of print preview. The notes, you can turn those off, and they're gone. And you can, if you want to, delete by a layer and get rid of those. So this is already set up with the arrows and the text size for dimensions to be okay. This one's ready to roll, so you can go ahead and create a drawing. When you create a drawing, let's turn that back on, you can create it on this particular sheet with a maximum of 9.5 inches wide by 7.75 inches tall. If you had something bigger than that, then we got a problem. But we got an answer. So we will close this one, and I'll show you all my pages that are going to be available for you. And that one there with the pound sign ahead of it was a save that it did. That one won't be on there, but the others will be. And what I've done is I've scaled that drawing from a tenth of scale, so that something that's 0.1 inches will show up as 1 inch on the paper, all the way up to 100 scale. And so let's go ahead and we'll look at the 100 one. And you see that it could draw something. You could draw something that's up to 79 feet 2 inches on the horizontal, 64 feet 7 inches on the vertical. That's the max that I ever figured I would ever have to need. And if you decide you need something more, I'll show you how to go about doing these yourself. Okay, it's real nice to know that they're there, but okay, it'd be nice to know which one to start. Before I do that, let me do one other thing to tell you about. You notice that when I look at that directory there, I've got a naming convention. It stands for US size paper, because I think we're the only people in the world that still use this letter. It's L. The L stands for landscape, and then it's border. I got ×1, ×2, so on and so forth. 1/5, 1/2, and 1/10. And so let's say like the 1/10, if I open it, it prints the paper 10:1, and that means that the scale 1 inch on the paper is equal to 0.1 inches of the object. And you see the biggest object you can get on here is 61/64 of an inch on the whole piece of paper right there. And you will see in just a minute I say that a different way also, because 61/64 doesn't mean a lot to me. Okay, I created a spreadsheet which will also be able to be downloaded. The multiplier is 0.1, 61/64 or 0.775 inches is the max width. And the max height is 99/128, which is 0.95 of an inch. Okay, as it got to be bigger, 950 inches doesn't mean a lot to me, but 79 foot 2 inches does. So I have it in both things. And let's go ahead and go back and look at those drawings one more time. So let's go back into LibreCAD, and we'll open it, and you will see this is the ×1 border. If I go here to edit, current drawing preferences, I go to dimensions. I have the arrowhead and the text height for dimensions already set, and then I set the extension line, all these other settings, to half of what the text height was, which seems to work okay. It looks pretty good. Okay, if I do it, let's do the ×100. So we'll close this window. We'll just close it because I didn't do anything to it. And we'll open the ×100. These really big, humongous numbers right here on the page size, on the drawing size. If you look at edit on that, you go to current drawing preferences, dimensions. You see that the text height is 12.5 inches, so that's a really big text, but it shows up the correct size on the piece of paper. And if I do I said it's 1:100, so I go 0, right here, and we'll make it black and white, and you see it fits exactly on the piece of paper. 1 inch of paper is equal to 100 inches of the object. So it all works out. Okay, how did I go about doing that? And then how would you modify it if you need to do something else? So I'll show you how I do those. So I call all these hacked, and those won't be available for download. Everything in the previous page will be available for download. And we're going to pretend we're going to double this thing. So the way I did it was, I go in here to modify, scale, select everything. Then when I picked a reference point, I always picked right here at 0.00. And I'm going to scale this to 2:1. So I'm going to double it. And now I go to zoom it to full screen. And you see that my dimensions, everything else zoomed up, but the dimensions didn't. So I have to modify those. So I go to edit, current drawing preferences, dimensions, and I will double each one of these. So this will be 0.25. The text will be the same, but before I do that, let's double this, which is basically cut and paste, because man, I like cut and paste. And now we'll double this one down to bottom, and my text and arrowheads and all that good stuff looks the same. And then I would go back, edit this. 1 inch of paper equals 2 inches of object. And then up here, this would be scaled 1:2. That's how I create it for y'all and for me. And then, like I said, you could turn off notes or you could delete the notes. If you were using this, okay, let's go ahead, we'll close this down, and I'll go ahead and save, even though I won't end up throwing those away. Okay, if I go into my directory right there, let's say I want to create my own drawing, and I know that I want to do it ×2. First thing I do is copy that, paste it, then I would modify this, rename, and call it my new drawing. That way I still have the original border over here available for future use, but I have my new drawing done that I know is going to print okay. So that's the way I do that. Okay, let's show you how and the file that will be available is usscaledborders.zip and maxdrawings.dimensions.xls. You'll be able to download both of those. Okay, I basically showed you how I would double something. So let's see, and we don't need to do it this way. Let's go ahead to here. Okay, let's say you want to do it in decimal units instead of fractions and inches and stuff. It would still be in inches, but it would be fractions. That's real simple, and you don't have to do a lot. All you have to do is just go up here to Current Drawing, Preferences, Units. Instead of having it in Architectural, you can go to Decimal or Engineering. And now I changed it to 7.75 and 9.5 inches instead of 9.5 and 7 3/4. And so now any dimensions I draw would be done correctly. Still 1 to 1 right down here. So that takes care of that one. Close it without saving. Okay, let's say that we want to, I showed you how to double it. I showed you how to go to engineering units. Let's go back to the, it's kind of hard to go back at this point. I'll go to here. When I went to this one, what I did basically was times 1, then from times 1 to times 2. Okay, double and 2 would have been 4, but I went to 5 instead, and then doubled that to go back to 10, and I just kept doing it to next multiplier of 10, and that's how I created these drawings. Same thing when I went down. I went 0.1, which is the 10th, 0.2, which is a 5th, and then 0.5, which is a half. And then the next one would be 1, back to 1 to 1. So that's how the scaling that I used, the increments I used on this thing. Shrink this again. Okay. Now we'll go here and I'll show you metric. Metric is a little bit of a hassle. Unfortunately, most of the rest of the world uses metric, so you guys are going to have a little bit of a problem. And then we'll deal with metric on A4 paper. Okay, the first step, anyhow, on doing this is we're going to have to scale the drawing. So we'll go into Change Things, Scale, and there are 25.4 millimeters per. Oops, I got to select everything. 25.4 millimeters per inch, so we're going to go 25.4. Okay. Go ahead and scale it. It's humongous. Okay, and now we can't even see our dimension lines, so now I have to scale those. And go to Edit. Current Drawing Preferences, Dimensions. I'd want to multiply by 25.4, but what I can do is I'm just going to do 25, and I will move this one up there, and it will now be 3. I'll just divide that by 2, so it would be 3.125. Math sounds crazy, but believe it or not, it works. And this I'm going to make it 1.6. And I've already got part of it done. I didn't mean to hit enter there. Dimensions. Copy this one to the arrowhead size. And we'll copy this to the other two numbers. Control C, Control V. Well, I can't live without them. And you see that's looking pretty good. and that's 241.3 millimeters wide. Okay, still 1 inch is equal to 1 inch, but since we're in metric now, we'd probably like to make that metric, so I changed this to 1 inch or 1 millimeter paper is equal to 1 millimeter object. Still 1 to 1, so let's double check it and see if it is 1 to 1. Oh, forgot to do one other thing. Edit. Current drawing preferences. Units. Make it millimeters. And now when I do a thing, I make it 1 to 1. Print preview, and you see it's back, it's fitting the paper perfect. So everything works. I need to move that over a little bit, but we're good enough. So you get the idea. Once you did the first one, if you did a 1 to 1, then I would just continue doubling everything, just like I did before. Multiply all those numbers, and you'll have it. So close. Close again. We'll go ahead and save this one because it was a hassle. Okay. Now let's say your paper is not English, it's A4 paper, standard with the rest of the world. So I've got 1 millimeter equals 1 millimeter of object. This has already been scaled up, just like I did the previous one, but this time I'm going to go into Edit, Current Drawing Preferences, and for paper, instead of letter, I'm going to call it A4. Okay, let's see what happens if we try to print this. We'll go 1 to 1. And you see that it's outside the board, the paper on one direction, and it's inside the paper in the other. So what I really have to do to finish this, if I'm going to go and try to do it on A4 paper, and I'm making some assumptions here. The assumptions are that the A4 paper would have the same amount of offset between what would print and what it has to, that the printer can't do, as it is on letter, and that is an assumption. So what I would do is I would do an offset from here, and I want to offset it by 210 is what the width is in millimeters for A4 paper, I think. And that ain't going to be right. So I don't have the correct dimensions, but you'd have to look up what the dimensions are of A4 paper. Offset that tick mark there over to here, and then do the same for the horizontal direction, and then draw your borders inside there from the tick marks. It'd be a little bit of a hassle, but it would be necessary to do. An even better way is to test it like we did in tutorial 6. Come up with your borders, and then look at this. Look at what I did when I at this video here of how I set the arrows, and create a very similar drawing for your printer. It should work. Okay, I think I got one more here. Let's just say that we're going to try to go tabloid, which is an American size paper. And I'm using a 1x1 again, but I'm going to hack it for a tabloid. Okay, the way it works in American size paper, tabloid is 11 by 17. Our letter is 8.5 by 11. So the 8.5 is this dimension here. The 11 is this dimension here. So what I need to do is zoom out a little bit. and I would make this one portrait, but we could fix it later on by rotating it. I'm going to do a copy. I am going to double it in the small dimension, which will now be our big dimension. Okay, I'm going to go from intersection to intersection. Just keep the original temporarily. Okay. Delete this, delete that, oops, not that, that, and I keep the bottom dimension. And now I'm going to do a okay, and that should be 11 by 17 scaled 1 to 1. Can now do a dimension. I'm in notes. Go to vertical dimension, which is this dude. Go from that point to that point. Then free position. Okay, you can't really read it right now on the screen, but if it was being printed, it would be exactly right. And 16.25 inches is what the print area would be. Okay, I could then now, if I go up here, I think I've already set that to tabloid, but I'm going to have to change one other thing on that. Edit, current drawing preferences, paper. Nope, I haven't changed it, so we're going to go to tabloid, and we're going to go portrait mode. Okay. I'm going to do a print preview, and I'm going to go 1 to 1, and it fits right on the thing. Let's go ahead and make it black and white. You can see it, it fits, and so it would print out, and my arrowheads and text and everything would look okay, because the paper size is bigger. And then I'd need to delete these other two extraneous tick marks. So that would be a 1 to 1 still. Then I would have to do everything again if I was going to up the size. So you can get to where you need to go by doing that. And if you got really big plotters, you're plotting this on the professional jobs, the next step would be, went from 11 to 8.5 to 11. We doubled the 11. We doubled the 8.5 to come up to 17. The next page, which in engineering terms is called a C-size drawing, would be 22 by 7 by 17.5 by 22. And C size is not used very often. And the next size above that would be D size, and we double whichever one was the smallest, and I'm confused at this point, so I'm not even going to talk it. But the idea is the smallest dimension gets doubled, the biggest dimension stays the same, which then becomes the newest small dimension. And that's the American standard for drawings. Anyhow, the original setup there, I've showed you how to modify it, but the original set of drawings, let's go back to the directory over here, will be available for download, and the same thing with the spreadsheet, and that'll be two separate downloads, but I'll have those on my page when I post this. It'll be on my website, and I'll put the link to the website where you can download these. And that should be very helpful to all of you all. And then I'm sorry I wasn't able to help you people that are outside the U.S. borders. I just don't have a printer that prints A4, and I don't have A4 paper available easily. So, anyhow, I showed you how to get from here to there. Appreciate you watching. Hopefully you got something out of this. This is Gary Fox, Create and Make.